XP, they got a new coil coming, and now's the time to start talking about it. Let's go. Okay, XP's got a new coil that's going to be coming out sometime in the near future. So I got to thinking, hey, what could be something that we could talk about? Maybe we speculate a little bit about what to expect out of this new coil that is coming out from XP. Well, we already know a couple of things. We know that it's going to be probably a high frequency coil. We've also heard that it's going to be maybe an elliptical coil. So to give us some sort of idea about what we could possibly see out of this coil, we decided to maybe go backwards. And so what we decided to do was to get our hands on the HF elliptical coil for the Deus I. And I think this can tell us a lot about what we could possibly expect from XP and this new coil that's coming out for the Deus II. So let's take a look again at the HF coil, the elliptical coil for the Deus I, and I think you're going to be surprised by what you see. The Deus I was released in 2010. It is now 2024, and I can tell you one thing, this machine still got a lot of pop to it, and it's got a lot of punch still left in it. So I want to go through a couple of tests and show you what it does on these tests. We're going to run it through an elevated nail test, something that I never got a chance to do with my Deus I when I originally had it. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at the Deus I, and we're going to look at the HF elliptical coil, the white coil if you guys remember correctly, and we're going to take a look how it does on an unmasking test with colonial nails and certain targets. Let's take a look at those targets and what we're going to be swinging over, and then I'll be right back with you. So what are we going to be running on the XP Deus I? We're going to be running Deus Fast on this test, and if you hit your menu button there in the center, you will see we're going to have the discrimination set at 6.1. We're going to be running the sensitivity at 90. We're going to start off with a frequency of 14.4 just to show you guys, and then we will gradually go up as we move through the frequency settings. We're going to run our iron volume at 0 just so you can hear the target coming through. Our reactivity we're going to be running at 3. Our audio response we're going to run at 4. No notch. And our discrimination is set at default at 6.1. So that's just basically what we're going to be running with here, and I wanted you guys to see that. And again, this is the Deus I. All right, stay tuned. Okay, this is our first target here, and you can see it is a nail laying on the same plane with a nickel. We're going to scoot over to our second target. We've got a nail slanted on an angle with a colonial button laying beside it. We go over to our next target, and we've got a elevated nail 1 inch above a colonial button. Let's see if we can get down on that a little bit more so you guys can see it. Next target is a 1.5 inch raised colonial nail with a colonial button laying beside it. Our next target is going to be a 2 inch colonial nail laying above a colonial button. The last one is the hardest one. It is a 3 inch colonial nail laying above a mercury dime. So we made that one pretty tough, and we'll see what happens with this. Again, we're going to be running the HF elliptical coil for the Deus I, and we're going to run it through all the frequencies just so you guys can see what happens on this unmasking test. So stay tuned. Okay, so this first test is on the colonial nail on the same plane with a nickel. Y'all listen to it. No problem there. Our next test is an elevated colonial nail on a slant next to a colonial button. No problem there. All right, let's move on to our next one. Our next target is a 1-inch elevated colonial nail beside a colonial button. Listen to this. And this is in 14.4 kilohertz. Does pretty good on that one. Let's look at our next one. Now we have a 1.5-inch elevated colonial nail beside a colonial button. You guys can see. That's it. Will not hit this one. And again, we're in 14.4 kilohertz. Let's go to the next target. This next test will be a 2-inch colonial nail elevated above a colonial button. Let's see what happens here. Again, 14.4 kilohertz. Nothing. Let's check out our last one, which is the hardest one. This is the hardest test, a 3-inch colonial nail above a mercury dime. And we got nothing. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to switch up and we're going to go to a higher frequency and show y'all a little bit about how that higher frequency might affect unmasking. Okay, so we just tested at 14.4. We're going to scroll down to our frequency and we're going to change up to the next highest frequency, which is going to be 31.3. Now again, you can adjust these frequencies. You can go down to 26 points, or 26,667, but just for all practical purposes we're going to go up to 31, which is the max, and that is the next frequency shift that we can do. So let's check out 31,373 kilohertz on the unmasking test, and let's see how it does this time. Okay, we're back to our same plane test with the nickel, and again we're at a frequency of 31 with the elliptical HF coil. Let's see what happens here. No problem. We're seeing an ID of 55, 56, 60 on that one. Let's check out our next target. This time we have the slanted colonial nail above a colonial button. Let's see how it does on this one. And every now and then we'll get a flash of a 40. Just hit it. That's all right. And sometimes a 67, 96. It's a little jumpy as far as the VDI numbers go. Let's look at our next target. Next target is a 1-inch colonial nail above a colonial button. And the target ID numbers are 01 for the most part. Every now and then we'll get an 06, but again hitting the target. And just to let you guys see, if we took away the button, nothing. And again, I have the iron volume turned off. Put the button back. Hits it with no problem. All right, let's look at our next one. Next target is a 1.5-inch colonial nail above a colonial button. Struggling with this one a little bit. Sounds sort of grunty a little bit too. but it is hitting it. And this is a big nail too, by the way. Okay, let's keep going. Next target. Next target is a 2-inch colonial nail above a colonial button. No problem here. Sometimes you get a one-way signal, and you can get a two-way signal. But again, it is able to hit it, and you can tell that it is the button. One more time, if we took this away, what would happen? Nothing. Put it back. And this is, again, in 31 kilohertz. Let's look at the last one, which is the 3-inch, this is the 3-inch colonial nail above a mercury dime. This is the hardest test. Struggling. Will not hit it. We turn sideways, still won't hit it. That nail is that corrosive on it. Okay, let's move up in kilohertz and let's see what the higher frequency will do. Okay, so we just tested at 14.4. We're going to scroll down to our frequency and we're going to change up to the next highest frequency, which is going to be 31.3. Now, again, you can adjust these frequencies. You can go down to 26 points, or 26,667. But just for all practical purposes, we're going to go up to 31, which is the max, and that is the next frequency shift that we can do. So let's check out 31,373 kilohertz on the unmasking test, and let's see how it does this time. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, now we are going to change the kilohertz, so we'll go back to our menu screen. Would you see we were at 31.3 on that last test? Now we're going to go up another one, which we're going to go all the way up to 74 kilohertz with the HF elliptical coil, and let's see how these targets respond at 74 kilohertz running Deus fast. We'll see what happens. All right, stay tuned. Okay, we are now in 74 kilohertz. Let's see what happens on the same plane nail test with a nickel beside it. Colonial nail on the same plane with a nickel. Sounds really good. Let's move on. Next, we have the slanted nail with a colonial button beside it. 74 kilohertz. And it's hitting it. VDI is showing up a 96.92 for those of you that are interested. Okay, let's move on to our next target. Our next target is a 1-inch colonial nail above a colonial button and 74 kilohertz. Y'all can see, no problem at all. 1 inch above a colonial button. Let's move on to our next test. Next test is a 1.5 inch colonial nail above a button. And this nail is really big, and I probably should have got a different nail. So this one causes the machine to have a lot of problems because it's a big nail. But let's see what this does in 74 kilohertz on this 1.5 inch. And y'all can hear it, it sort of struggles, but it's still hitting it though. Which is just, to me, amazing. So there you go. That's a tough test, especially with that big size nail beside it. And we're gonna look at our next test. Let's move on. We got our 2-inch colonial nail above a button. Does really well on this one. .74 kilohertz. Really good there. Let's look at this last one. This last one is a 3-inch colonial nail above a mercury dime. Let's see what happens with this. And you guys remember, this was the one that was hard for all machines. And we got a little bit. You have to actually lift the coil slightly. If you lift it, it seems like it'll hit it. But again, probably one of the toughest tests that I've got out here. See how much I have to lift it? Tough nail, tough target. ID pops in an 02, 03, 05. Okay, that's going to conclude our test today. Thank you guys for coming along. Again, what can we expect from the new coil coming from XP? I think this was a good indicator today. Looking back at the HF elliptical coil for the Deus I, I think you guys saw this coil still has a lot of ability and it still packs a punch. So again, this coil, what will it be like on the Deus II? That's going to be the question. So stay tuned, check out XP's site. Hopefully we'll be seeing sometime soon, maybe in the near future. So check out XP and we will catch you guys real soon on our next adventure. Take care and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.